You know, when we talked about the workshop with Allison and Delia and the people at ILSI, it seemed like making closing comments wouldn't be such a challenge. And as the day went on, I could feel myself, little beads of sweat saying, how do you put this all together in a few minutes? So it hasn't been easy. I will take a 30,000-foot view of what I've heard today. I'm not a food microbiologist. I'm not a food chemist. I'm not any of those things. I'm classically trained as a nutritionist, and that's both a good thing and a bad thing, I think, for these closing comments. No one said, and I'm sure no one thought, that this would be easy or simple. We didn't hear that today. We didn't expect to. And given the complexity, it wasn't a surprise that while this workshop was focused on technological aspects of sodium reduction in the food supply, we nonetheless heard questions along the lines of, is this really necessary? Is it possible? Is it appropriate? And I even heard that if we can just keep doing what we've been doing for 40 years, maybe a little bit better, consumer education, consumer behavior, maybe if we just keep trying, we'll get there. But I've also heard today that newer technologies are possible, that technologies can be used to change the food environment in certain ways. Kathy, our lead-off speaker from Leatherhead, highlighted several steps that were interesting, changing the size and shape of the crystals, changing distribution, microstructure. I love the idea of layering salt in your little picture of the bread. That was fascinating to me. I'd never thought. So there are creative things. Kathleen Glass gave us a lot of possibilities, including protective culture and the whole question of sorbic acid. We heard about rapid sodium testing, high-pressure processing, topical antimicrobials. Everyone, however, emphasized that these were baby steps. I think, though, that that's perfect, because it's what we're about, is baby steps. In this effort, I think, and I think a lot of people do think, that this has got to be a very slow, stepwise process. And I predict it's going to be 2 steps forward and sometimes 3 steps back, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And that's probably the way it should be, because as someone said, this isn't like a sugar substitute. This isn't like a fat substitute. It's a heck of a lot more complicated than that, which means doing it slowly, monitoring it, looking at ways of food categories that have to interact, understanding what people are eating. I think it was Mike who said, maybe prosciutto shouldn't have to come down. Maybe it can't. Maybe we should look at things that are more broadly consumed. All of those questions are on the table, and none of them have been answered. And of course, we didn't answer them today. But importantly, I think sometimes moving ahead on exploring these new technologies gets lost in the fear or the panic, thinking that we have to focus on getting it down to 2,300 milligrams period stat. What we're really talking about is getting it down a little and seeing what's happening. We have to put our mindset into thinking little steps, baby steps. And that goes hand in hand with this gradual stepwise process. What many of our presenters were able to give us today is an excellent lay of the land. We now better understand the challenges. We've got those on the table. We understand that the food supply is not going to be an easy nut to crack. But having outlined this, I don't think we can declare victory and go home today. I would hate to see that happen. What we need now is a concerted effort to identify what from these challenges we face are our priorities or our best bets or what we can do next. We have to put aside for a moment the question that everyone raised, which is better research on taste and how that happens. That clearly front and center and has been there for a long time. But what else? What's second? I kind of go back to my question. What is your second research priority. We got started a little bit on it this afternoon with microbial. We heard a little less on non-microbial, but I think it's time to start that kind of a dialogue now. It won't be easy, but it is the most desirable next step from what we've heard today. It's agreed that we need collaboration, and it's agreed we need some creative thinking, and now is the time to try to start to do that. So in our final kind of closing remarks, I want to just theme a little bit on where Kathy Wotecki started, and Kathy Weimer brought it up earlier, that we really do have the opportunity for a public-private partnership. We heard about the Innovation Center, the whole question of food safety curves, and I like this thought, having been an old FDAer, that it is hard to change those darn standards of identity. But if you don't start to talk about it, it's not going to happen. And it's clear from what you've got in front of you, that is a big stumbling block. So when you talk about public-private partnerships, talking to FDA, maybe those standards of identity are certainly something you need to put on those tables. And someone else, I forgot who it was, said maybe we need a survey. I guess it was Kathy Glass. Maybe we need a survey of what the heck has happened since 2010, because my sense is a lot has happened. We couldn't have had this dialogue, I don't think, 5 or 6 years ago. Even though we didn't move the ball forward to what needs to be done, we could not have had a lot of the information on the table 10 years ago. So congratulations on a lot of progress, but we haven't got victory yet. So those are my remarks, and now you have to come up.
Well, I knew this youngster would do a lot better job than me. That's why I let her go first. But, you know, it's clear that this is a very complex problem, and there's different issues with different types of foods, and there's no panacea. But there are, I think, lots of opportunities, but to address the issue, depending on the product category, but obviously this all costs money, and there has to be a commitment to do it. And so, you know, it's been touched upon alternate ways in which money could be made available through public-private partnerships and so on. But I think there needs to be a commitment. If the industry is truly interested in developing such a program, now is the time to do it. What is there, $200 million from USDA available? But that's not just food safety. I mean, that's ag production and all of agriculture. So the sooner you get your ore in the stream, the greater likelihood is that you're going to be able to get something out of that opportunity. I think the challenge is only going to get greater with what I'm seeing, which is it's kind of a shock to us old farts, but you know, the natural food movement, the millennials today have a whole different perspective of what they want in their foods. And when you start taking out things like sorbate and benzoate and a variety of other preservatives, the challenge of making a safe food that has what I'd consider to be a reasonable shelf life, considering how our foods are marketed today, is going to be enormous. I don't think everyone fully appreciates the value of sorbate and benzoate, which we have been using for years. And if we take those out, and it's happening, I mean, it's happened in Europe, they have much shorter shelf lives. They don't have 90-day shelf lives on their meat. And we're seeing natural foods, natural meats. Peter, I'm not trying to embarrass you, but I've tried a lot of these natural meats, and I haven't found one I like yet. I mean, taking out a lot of the preservatives beyond, or not just preservatives, but additives, antioxidants, and so on, it's just not the same for me. And I've been, but I'm not of the millennial generation, so maybe it's not so important.
I'm sorry, I said I was knew you since I was 1 or 2 years old. It's obviously affected your mood.
I still love you. The bottom line is, I think this is obviously a tremendous challenge for the industry, but it's going to take a major commitment, monetary commitment, time commitment. And so it's better to start now than later if you're really serious about it while the matching monies from USDA is available. So with that, Chris, do you have anything else?
I do want to commend again ILSI. I think both of us were utterly impressed with not only the presenters, but the crowd that was attracted to come. We're really grateful for the opportunity to have done this, and it's really a step forward. So thank you very much. Thank you to you. Sorry? It's true. Yep.